A very good evening to all. I'm Dr. Vasavi Acharya, founder, managing director, Inner Eye Foundation Private Limited and Tender Petals Preschool Chain, and chairperson Early Child Development Forum, which is an NGO that works towards implementing the best practices of early childhood education, and we work through all the stratas of the society in our aim with the endeavor to reach out to children of all stratas of the society. First of all, I thank FirstCry for inviting me for today's session on building up leadership skills of children from their early childhood years. Well, I have been working in the domain of early childhood education for the past 2 decades, and children has been the constant in my life. There's a lot to learn from children. I would say that children are natural born leaders because, in fact, there's so much to learn, and when we communicate and when we are kind of interacting with children, they really give us that thought building in terms of with their questions and all of that, right? So I think children have the leadership skills, but we need to, as educators, as parents today who are watching me in this session, I feel that there are different ways in which we can hone these skills, the skills of leadership. Now, looking at it, why the early years? Why, there are a lot of people who would be thinking leadership skills in early years. How does that kind of, correlate? Because the children are the most receptive in the first 7-8 years of their lives. And this is the most crucial time in terms of absorbing what they're learning, in terms of building up their personality, in terms of wiring their brains. We call it the brain, the neural network, which is the brain wiring, how they're perceiving the world around them, how they're perceiving themselves. They just build up their own character, personality, the interpersonal, the intrapersonal skills, and all of that, right? So this is the time when we inculcate. It is the time when when we can inculcate the best of the things in them, the best of the skills in them. And I feel that this is a time where we can actually help them build up their leadership qualities so that in the future they turn out to be great innovators. I don't mean leaders in the terms of leading somebody all the time, but it's about bringing out new things, thinking out of the box, coming up with some new solutions, always, taking a lead in the, be it in his or her own entrepreneurial ventures, in the career that they are pursuing, XYZ, So leaders have different faces. It's not about just leading from the front in terms of a career in leading. Well, so I feel that if children are, we have to maintain a balance. As an educator, as parents, we need to maintain a balance with what we are doing with children. That is what in one of the webinars that we were talking about, the STEM-sational thing and all of that, we were thinking about that balance. How much and how we are going to go about developing this skill in children. So if a child is overstimulated, they might become a little chaotic in their thinking. And if they're understimulated, their brains may not wake up to make the connections, And these connections are vital because they build up the overall personality, like I have just mentioned. And this actually leads to what the child is, how successful the child is going to be in their lives. And I don't mean by success, just success of, by grabbing a good job and all of that. No. Success in terms of the fulfillment, the satisfaction, happiness that a person has in his or her life. So coming back to developing, building up leadership skills from early years, let me start by, saying that this is a lifelong process. It is not about just now or, in the next 2-3 years. It's a lifelong process. We are still trying to, hone certain different skills. So this is leadership skills come in the same category. We just keep developing. And as educators, as parents, it is our duty to, kind of mold our children and guide them in the right direction to develop the right skills. So let me tell you in brief some of the tactics, the strategies how we can build up their skills. Number one, you have to be a role model. Your child, it is very, very important that we have to project ourselves as leaders in actually building up the skills in our children. So how do we do that? I mean, children are constantly following us. Whatever we say, we keep saying, do this, do that, and we then give a different, a different message through our actions by not doing that. So it is not what you say that the children follow. Children follow by example, how you are leading them. So if they see that a mother or an educator has those skills where they can inspire, where they can, actually create an awe in the little one, that is very important. So you automatically become a role model for the little one. And that is very vital in instilling the skill of leadership. When they see a role model in front of them, it's very easy to, kind of imitate and get those skills into themselves. Second, I would suggest that you should make them very responsible decision makers. Now, how do we treat children? We really generally treat children as non-decision makers in terms of we do not give them the right to make decisions. We as elders always tell them this is the right thing to do, that is the right thing to do, and we are always telling them, mama knows better, or the teacher would, educator would say, oh, ma'am is telling you this. No, we have to give them the responsibility to make decision, to assess outcomes. We should give them tasks. When we give them tasks and tell them that the outcome of this task, be it a positive outcome or a negative outcome, is your responsibility, you will see that the child starts working towards a positive outcome. And they have the responsibility. Even if there is a negative outcome, they know that, okay, it is because of something where they went wrong. So it is very important to make them responsible, because responsibility, the children needs to take the responsibility of the consequences that are there. And this responsibility enables them to build trust and freedom. To be a leader, they should be able to complete what the task. They cannot. We see little children when we give them something in the classroom. We give them a task and they are doing it. Then they suddenly get agitated and they go away. They say, "Oh, I don't want to complete this. I want to just do something else." But we have to instill in them the little by stepwise the ability to reach or meet their commitments. When they're given a task, it's basically a commitment. Like if somebody tells me to do something and I commit to it, I do it, right? So they have to be instilled in that small thing of commitment where they complete the task with your help and support, definitely, because you are guiding them, you are facilitating them. If they have a difficulty, they look to you for support and you give them the support. And then they complete the task. And you know that at the end of it, the kind of joy they find, that actually instills in them again the thing that, okay, I can do it. I'm doing it well. My ma'am is appreciating me. Children have a huge time crush with their educators. So they would not even listen to the parents. It's like if ma'am tells something. So if you give them a task and they complete it and they find that, okay, they are able to contribute in some way, they build up that confidence, to take up the next one, take up the next task. Also, it's very important to help them develop a team spirit. A leader is always leading the pack. So it is without a team, work kind of an environment where we give them in class. Definitely, I think there are a lot of educators watching me today. We give them a lot of tasks, a lot of team activities where they kind of communicate, collaborate with each other and try to finish the task, and they feel a sense of joy in doing that. So this building up of team spirit is important, because asking each other what the other wants, what is the opinion, being empathetic, trying to understand each other's need is very important. And when we are looking at it as being empathetic, as being looking at each other's need, we feel that okay, these are little toddlers. I mean, how will they learn all of that? I mean, how would they understand being empathetic? It's not about understanding the word, it's about that concept. The word is just a word where they, when I say that, okay, I'm giving you two chocolates and you divide among four of you, then the empathetic child would take that up and actually give it to the peers, to the friends. So that is a leadership quality. That is a quality where you find satisfaction in giving the others and also leading the way, and all of you together you develop. So when we are talking about leadership, it's about not self, not about me, not about my growth. It's about the growth of the overall, the entire, all the peers, or if you look at the entire pack who is looking towards a goal. So it is that spirit. So the child, the moment they understand sharing, caring, empathy, they develop these things. So when we are doing those small activities of sharing and caring, actually we are also helping them understand these concepts, understand leadership, understand that okay, there's a joy in giving, and that is how they develop the, socio-emotionally, they develop all these skills. Another thing is building up negotiating skills. Our children are very good negotiators already, and I think most of the mothers who are there, they'll understand how and why, because when my child was a kid, he was very young, he would always come and ask for his favorite toy or something that I have not given, a chocolate or XYZ, when I'm on my call, and that's an official call, say. So they know when to take out what. So they're very good at finding their way out, children. So we should be encouraging them in their negotiating skills. I'm not saying that, taking out things or whatever, but it's about negotiation, what they want, why is it good, Later they'll come to understand that whatever they're negotiating for, that has a specific aim, but the skill can be developed at an earlier age. And then conflict resolution. When we say conflict resolution, it's about the little fights they have, the small fights they have with, the toys. Somebody is not giving the favorite bicycle to the other one. In schools we usually have all this trouble when everybody wants to be on the same bicycle, tricycle. Probably there are lots around, but they all want the same one. And then they resolve their own conflicts. So as adults, we should allow them to resolve their conflicts. Many a times we see that, parents get into their children's conflict, and by the time the parents actually resolve the conflict for the child, they resolve it themselves, they become best of friends, and they just do, they just have a gala time. So this conflict resolution is very, very important, because they need to know how to solve their problems. Conflict is a problem. Every day we are having conflicts in our lives. Even, now suddenly we've all become so online, and getting into the whole system also is a conflict. But we resolve it, right? We have resolved whatever conflicts we have in our lives, and we are here right now where we are, or where we want to be. So children need to learn a lot about conflict resolution in order to develop leadership skills, because all leaders, there is a lot of negotiation, and they need to be resolved at times, and they don't need to build up more conflicts. Children need to learn how to handle failures. Failure is a word that really scares us, yes, because there are a lot of people who don't even try in their lives because they think that, what if I fail? What would people say if I fail? Now, where does the fear of people saying something when you fail come from? It comes from your childhood days, because when probably you were a child and you went for some running race and you did not get a trophy, probably somebody told you, oh my God, you failed this time, and that set in the fear in you. We have to make our children understand one thing, that it is more about participation. It's more about being a part of it than about actually getting scared about failure or any of that. Failure is the most important thing to bring about success in your life, because it helps you to grow, it helps you to learn, and it comes as a lesson. So we have to actually instill that thing of sportsmanship. Generally as parents, or as grown-ups, we kind of suddenly comment, oh, you didn't get a prize, oh, what happened? So we should not scare our children with that. We should instead tell them, oh, how well you tried, and next time probably, you are going to do even better than how you performed today. When we are talking about failure, it's about comparison. Never, never compare your children with any others. So if we start comparing, they start getting scared of failures. They lose that motivation actually to go forward in their lives. So that is very, very demotivating, and that should not be done. So in order, every leader, now if we take the example of Abraham Lincoln, he miserably got defeated in so many of the elections that he stood for. I mean, he was not even voted, kind of. So, but he never gave up. And he got that inspiration from one spider that was climbing up and falling and climbing. So we always have to keep our children motivated, even if they fail. And to build this self-confidence is very important. So we, in our schools also, we use a lot of strategies to, build up self-confidence, and that can be practiced inside and outside the classroom. You can give them small tasks to do, like I've already said. Those tasks, when they complete it, you can be appreciating those tasks and telling them that they've really done well and all. So that builds up that basic confidence. The praise that you put on them, the praise is very important. They look for approval, and once you get them, give them that approval, they have that joy to go forward to the next task. And you can also practice rotation of daily leaders. So that was one thing we used to do, in our classroom. We rotate the leader. It's like not like one class captain or something. So every day a child would, get the class leader role, and they would be given, he or she would be given some specific things, and he or she does it. So that also, sometimes children who are not so extroverted gets the impetus to come forward and become more extrovert, instead of, being in the corner and trying to just see what the others are doing. They get a scope. And even if they're not able to do it, we can support them. We can help them build that confidence, and that is our job. Everybody is not the same. When we get into a preschool or a kindergarten, we see a lot of children very joyous and wishing you, hi ma'am, this, that, XYZ. But there are a lot of children who are quietly sitting at one corner and observing, and probably, do not have that confidence to come forward. So it is our duty to build up that confidence in them, and we can give them a lot of tasks in the classroom and outside the classroom to build up the confidence. And always encourage work and action. We should always work, when we're looking at work per se, it's not about doing some job as in terms of that, but even if they clean up their own classroom, the toys, when they play, we have got a lot of these apparatus, teaching apparatus. So if they just clean that up, it's about learning, and it's about doing, it's about feeling more confident that, okay, I'm able to clean up. Okay, this is the mess I created, and I'm cleaning up this mess. So, they have that sense of joy and confidence. So that these are small things in which we can instill that leadership skills in terms of, yes, I am able to, I am good, I am confident, I am useful. We should try to make children feel more useful, because most of the time when we were young, like we were not asked to make decisions. I mean, I was lucky enough to come from a family that used to make everybody sit together and ask that, okay, this is something that we are going to buy. Do you agree? Do you want this? Do you have anything else in mind? But also I've seen a lot of families, where children do not get that say. They do not have the say. It's very important that they should be a part of the decision-making process. That would not start probably in the early years, but as they grow up, we can inculcate those things. So they feel more important. They feel that, okay, I have a part to play. I have a say in, this thing that has come into our family, a new purchase or whatever. Also, we need to encourage a lot of communication, because communication is one aspect that is so important. children need to communicate, they need to be, they should be allowed to ask a lot of questions, because questions are so important. They kind of give put that thinking cap on for children. So they kind of ask questions, they should be allowed to give opinions, they should, be allowed to tell their observations, to talk on different subjects. So when we are doing any kind of activity in our class, we actually involve our children in telling, yeah, what do you see? What is your opinion? What is the observation that you have seen? Is there a hypothesis? What do you think? Why did it happen? Also ask a lot of open-ended questions that makes them, think and come quickly out with some answers, or maybe they're right answers or wrong or whatever. But they have that, spirit to answer and question and communicate, and try to know what the other is thinking, and they kind of develop as a team. They try to develop as a group. So we have to also encourage children to pursue the interests that they have. So generally, we look at the interest in a very small perspective. At times, we tell them, these are the academic things you need to do. You need to be a great, you need to practice art and all. But no, we should look at what the child's intrinsic interest is. And for that, we have to follow them through. We have to be really good observers. What is actually motivating the child? What is actually getting the interest of the child? What is suddenly you give an activity and the child lights, the eyes of the child lights up and says, oh ma'am, I want to do this. Means the child has a particular interest. So we are looking at the multiple intelligence thing. So we as educators, we as parents need to understand that children need to be tested and judged. Children should not be tested and judged, but need to be looked with a broader area. We have to look at the different type of intelligence that the child has. Somebody may be very good in linguistic. Somebody may be very good in the logical and mathematical and intelligence. So it's not about language and mathematics. It can be art, music, anything. So we have to find the basic interest in the child and pursue that, because when just look at yourself, if you are given the freedom to do what you love to do, you are going to excel in it, right? So to excel, one has to have the freedom to pursue what they want to do. We as grown-ups, we with a lot of experiences in our lives, sometimes we kill that spirit of the child who wants to come up with something something different that they want to do, because we just try to put them in the stereotype that no, you have to do this, you need to do that. So that's very important that we give them the liberty and the freedom to pursue what they want to do. So I think when I look at leadership, I would just say one thing, that leadership is a overall, it's not about, I can see some questions coming, so I'll take them in a bit. Yes. So let me finish this. Yeah, there are a few questions here already, so I'll be taking those up. When we say leadership, if I would, just spell out every word with what I've said, a leader is somebody who is loyal, enthusiastic, action-oriented, a good decision maker, enterprising, responsible, self-confident, helpful, independent, and passionate. That is what makes up leadership. That makes up the entire word, the leadership. So we need to instill all of this in the children that we are with, be it at home, be it at school, be it at our neighborhood. We should try to be right and the perfect kind of role models who they can follow, with whom they feel that that they feel that they are somebody, they can lead, they are of they are basically they can do things that they want to do. So I have got this question from Rani, S. Rani. I have a 2.5-year-old girl. She's very active, talkative and strong inside and the house, but once she steps, she doesn't want to talk to people or even play with other kids, and she gets kind of bullied by other kids. Kindly help me. S. Rani, see, this is a very common thing. I mean, when we deal with a lot of children, and this is one question that so many parents ask, that my child is so happy and jolly and talkative inside the house, but the moment they meet a stranger, they don't kind of, cooperate, or they don't want to talk, or they shy away and all of that. You have to, I think as parents, you need to take your child out more, to a play area. I would not say as of now, because now we are in a different situation altogether. But once everything gets back to normalcy, you should take your child to open areas like a park or some place where there are other children. Plus, you can encourage your child to talk to the strangers, like, just say that say hi to auntie, or say hi to uncle. Why don't you play with the child? So those are some dialogues that would help your child to feel comfortable. And when they see that the parents are talking with somebody, they they start associating with that person. So it is very important that that association happens through you, because they are very small. They are in the comfort zone. They are with the parents, happy. Once they are out of the comfort zone, the child probably feels, a little, okay, I'm in a strange place and all. So they need to start feeling more comfortable in that. And for that, I think you have to take your child out more often. Encourage your child to talk, to strangers with you being around, and just to be, just start with that, and you'll see gradually there's a little change in the behavior, and that is how you can inculcate a little bit of that friendly attitude in your child. So Reena Nanri has written, hello, my daughter is 5 years old. Of late, though being very talkative, she's not willing to talk to any of her friends or grandparents over the phone. Although being very fond of dancing, she's stage shy and also shy of performing in front of you. See, again, she doesn't want to talk to any of her grandparents over the phone. Probably, she has this shyness, which I used to have when I was a kid. And that is so natural for children. And I think even you, you have written, and probably if you look back, probably even you had that same shyness, going in front of an audience and facing an audience. For that, I feel that the schools, because she's 5 years old, so probably she's already going to a preschool. So you may talk to her educators, you may try to tell them about this difficulty that she has, so that they can try to motivate her in the class without her knowing that they're intentionally doing it, but probably, just to recite a rhyme in front of her friends, and then in the annual day perform something. And that is, I think, from the educator's side, it's very easy to do, because children usually follow what the class teacher is saying. So even you at home can give her that inspiration that you're looking good, or make a small video and try to engage her. And also when the school reopens, because all the schools are closed as of now, so they are probably doing these online classes and all. But once they are again back to the schools, ask the educator to encourage her to be more active and to perform in front of other children, so that she breaks that shyness, that she gets over it. Another question from Sona. My daughter is 4.5 years old. I hope I'm answering the questions, the first two that I had taken. If there is anything else, you write to me. My daughter is 4.5 years old. She is sharp-minded, but her concentration is very weak. She is very shy and cannot express or perform things in front of a lot of people. Now, when you talk about concentration, I would say that children concentration is 4 into that age, okay? So you take, if your child is 4.5 years, 4.5 into 4, that makes it about 16 minutes. And when we are looking at a a preschooler, 2-year-old or a 3-year-old coming to school, they basically have 12 minutes or 15 minutes of concentration overall. So when we are banging things at them, when they are not ready to soak in, there is no point actually. So they concentrate for small durations. So it is very natural. Your 4.5-year is very young, so definitely her concentration wouldn't be so much. But you can develop concentration skills by giving her tasks which are a little, a task that takes a little more time to finish. So usually when children are 6 years or 7 years and they have the ADHD, the lack of concentration, there are certain cases where it's like that. Then we suggest them to suggest the parents to enroll them into a chess class or something. That's when the child reaches 6 or 6 plus. So now what you can do at home is you can give some tasks to your daughter, and that task she needs to complete. So give her a timing and all, that you need to complete this within 5 minutes. I'm looking at the time and you do it. So that is how you can enhance a concentration. But do not expect that a child can have concentration like we adults have. We don't. They don't have. Okay. And another thing is being shy with people. I think I've already told in my other 2 questions. Shabina 34. She wrote to me that the son is 2 years and 4 months. And he's too intelligent, but still I want to know how to keep engaged children even then when the parents are not at home. See, when you're not at home, nowadays what people do is engage them in gadgets. So I would tell you, please keep yourself and your son gadget free. Try not to engage, and even if if you're giving something, always keep it under your supervision. As far as your son is only 2.5 years, 2.4 months old, probably there must be a caretaker or somebody in the house who looks after your child when you are not there, or So probably you can chalk out some day-to-day activities for your child, that this is something they need to do, say a handprint or some small activity, and whoever is there, even if you are not there as a parent, even if the grandparents are there, I don't know the scene at home, but whoever is there, you can tell that engage my child in this, engage him in this, ask him to do this thing, or any kind of craft work, or probably a small exercise thing, just a dance to some music. So that keeps the child engaged, and it keeps the child very happy. Instead of making them sit in front of some TV and some weird TV shows, I think some tasks you can plan the day ahead. And when you're not there with the child, you can give the caregiver or the guardian, whoever is with the child, to do the task with him. I think that would be a good way to engage. Another question is, my daughter is 5-year-old, but she is very quiet all the time. What should I do? I would ask you, how much time do you talk with your daughter? Because a lot of, when parents come to our school, many a times they feel that the child is not talking much, and probably they think that the child has a speech disorder or language formation difficulty or something. But then when they come into the school, we see that the child is perfectly normal and they are talking. So how much time are you giving your daughter in talking? Because communication is very important. We cannot expect that a child talks to us when we don't talk to the child. Now, if you're talking to the child and the child is not communicating much, I think you have to encourage communication. Because I had a child in one of our classes where even if the child would talk, the child, out of laziness or for whatever reason, I don't know, if he wanted water, he would just show the, point at the bottle, ma'am, he would say like that, ma'am, he will not say give me the water bottle or mujhe pani ka bottle de dijiye, whatever. So we would not listen. We would say, bolo, tabhi denge. And then the child was made to speak. Then he would say, pani pina hai, bottle do. So the child started talking. So you have to encourage the talking things. And otherwise, if you are, how much time you are talking with your child is also important. First, you have to mind that. And number one, if you are not talking enough with your child, then you need to start talking. And if you are talking already, but the child is not responding or doesn't want to, out of laziness, out of whatever, just encourage the child. Even beyond that, if your child is not talking, then probably you have to consult somebody. Maybe there is a little bit of, sometimes they have word formation difficulty and all of that, so that can be looked into later, not right away. So first try all this. There is one question that says that how to teach toddlers as sharing their things would, please tell me. Sharing, yes, sharing. Nowadays we see that most of the households are nuclear families, and in nuclear families we have mostly 1 or 2 children max, and the children find it very, very difficult to share. Now when we were brought up in joint families with a lot of children, and even if we got one chocolate, that also had to be shared, even if we didn't want to, kind of. So there are a lot of sharing activities that you can do, and usually, the preschools also do these sharing and empathy building activities in the social emotional classes. So these activities you can just get something, say get 2 or 3 things, 3 pencils or something that your child likes, chocolates or something, and then get some more children from the neighborhood, or if there are other children, ask the child to share and feel, and ask, after they share, they basically want some appreciation, because sharing wouldn't come naturally. If somebody doesn't want to, see, children are egocentric. We have to accept that. We cannot say that, we cannot label on that basis, but generally children are egocentric. They like their own things. They don't want to share. And that is the case for most of the children. Even we were like that at one point of time. So when they share and when they give something, you appreciate that action. And you say that, see, आपने ये चीज़ दिया, आपको अच्छा लगा, and the child says, हाँ मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा. So you can develop, it's a habit. Sharing, thinking about others, putting yourself in someone else's shoes is basically a habit, and it has to be developed. It wouldn't just come. So you develop, you just help the child to share. ये हमको दे दो, मम्मी को दे दो, आपको अच्छा लगा, and then you also do the same thing. You also kind of, देखो मेरे पास यही है, but मैं आपको दे रहा हूँ. आपको अच्छा लगा कि मैं आपको दे रहा हूँ, then he or she would say yes, and that is how we are inculcating or instilling that sharing and caring in our children. That's also a habit that has to be developed. One query is about my 4-year-old daughter is a very good learner and sharp, but she is introvert. How to deal with it, as sometimes she stands quietly in front of others. See, now you don't expect your 4-year daughter to, be that extroverted and say some rhymes and all. See, so many times we as parents would say, uncle ko ye rhyme bata do, auntie ko ye bata do, and the child doesn't feel comfortable. Children are also, when we say that children are egocentric, we also have to understand one thing. Children are also moody. Sometimes they do not have the mood, One child who is so happy one day, suddenly for no reason will sulk the next day, the entire day. So, these are their moods, these are the things, and give them the time and the space. Probably she is introverted. You can just tell her that, try to say something to our auntie, say hi and all beforehand, and never try to force them to say things in front of people. Ki auntie ko kyun nahi bol raha and all. Don't do all of that. Even if she is not saying, standing quietly, let her be. But when you come back home, you can talk to her. You can tell her, see, beta, you could have said a hi. Why didn't you say? Try to understand why she doesn't say. So, children will tell you everything. They're very innocent. They'll nicely tell you, Mama, humko bolne ka man nahi tha, or, I didn't want to, or, I feel shy. They'll tell you. And you should support, whatever they tell you, how they feel and all. You have to kind of support that and enhance the thing. And even if you want that your daughter becomes more extroverted, again, I would tell you that we work in a golden triangle, the school, the parent and the student being at the top of the triangle of the pyramid. The child is our main concern, and when we think that, some areas we are not able to help our child in some way or the other, share this with the teacher, share it with the educator, tell her, ask her, what we should do, what can be done in the classroom, etc. Take help, and that would then both of your concerted effort can put a positive impact, have a positive impact on your child, and probably she'll start to get more extroverted. Um, there is one question. My girl is 5 years old. She's smart, but in our side, if she go to school or outside, she can't do anything aggressively. Now sudden reactions come. How can we guide her to be calm and quiet at home? I am completely unsatisfied and very sad. If she goes to school or outside, she can't do anything aggressively. Now sudden reactions come. How can we guide her to be calm and quiet at home? I'm not getting this completely in a right manner. Probably you are trying to say that your child is outside. The child is she is very quiet outside, but inside she is quite aggressive and she shows reactions. So it's basically throwing tantrums. Children throw tantrums. Again, that is another thing of child psychology. You have to accept that they throw tantrums, but as parents, we have to tell them not to throw tantrums. We have to, remove them from that environment. Matlab, if your child, there was an example. Um, One parent had come to me and told me that I took my child to a mall, to a shopping mall, and my child wanted to take all the sweets in that corner. The malls have those chocolate corners and all of that. So the child wanted to take all the chocolates from there. And when the mother said no, he created a ruckus. He kicked the floor, kicked the, those counters, fell to the floor and cried and created a ruckus, and everybody was looking, and there was a, crowd around the child. And the parent was extremely annoyed by what the child did. And what the parent did at that point of time was just, the parent also got so lost and aggressive and angry probably. She hit her child there. And that was a very chaotic thing that happened. After that, she told me that, ma'am, this happened and how should I have behaved? What she should have done is she should have removed the child from that environment at that point of time. Meaning, see, you are misbehaving, you are doing this. She was in the middle of a shopping. She could have, just lifted the child with whatever she bought or whatever and come back. So, removing the child from that environment is very important. Even in our classrooms, when a child gets very aggressive or tries throwing tantrum, we send the child to another class or to some other area, to a play area or to some, fine motor area, so that they are removed from that environment. And second thing you can do is, you can set up a peace table in your house. A peace table is a table, it's not a punishment. If the child is acting very aggressively or, getting angry or something, you can tell her that, see, you are not behaving in the right way. For 5 minutes, you have to sit in this table. Okay? So she has to sit in that peace table for some time. And it is a very good way of negotiating. That if you, maintain this peace, you will be, given, I don't mean bribing or giving something, but we will not be angry with you. Something like that. Don't bribe your children, but for the positive behavior, definitely you can reward them. Don't give them chocolates and all. Reward them with a hug. Reward them with a kiss. Show some reward that you are doing this right. So they have to be encouraged to show the right behavior. Sometimes children become very, they start showing negative behavior because they try to get the attention of the parents. They have to be made to understand that negative behavior, even if it is drawing attention, is not the right thing to do. And so when they behave positively, you have to give them small perks like a kiss, a hug, sometimes a small chocolate, sometimes a walk, down, sometimes a game that I'll play with you if you behave with me, because children really love the time they spend with their parents, and they get very excited when the mother or the father says, I'll play with you this, this game. So these are small perks you can give for positive behavior. So if your child is actually throwing tantrums at home, probably it's that, they get chaotic at times. Otherwise, it may be also because they want attention. So try to divert that behavior to positive, channel it to positive behavior. One more, I have got my daughter is 16 months and she is very headstrong. How to channelize her energy in the right direction? She is very active, quick learner, but I'm afraid she might end up being a difficult child. You're being afraid that she might end up being a difficult child will actually make her a difficult child. I will tell you, always, what you believe and what you fear and what you resist is what persists. So have faith. 16 months is just 1 year, 4 months. Right now, there is nothing that you really need to do, because sometimes it is very difficult. I mean, for 16-month-old, you cannot really think that she might become a difficult child. What makes you think so? You are a parent. You have to have that faith and belief, and you have to just work towards it. Because when you're thinking that she might be a difficult child, you discuss it with people around you that she might be a difficult child at times. That discussion, that is actually going to make her a difficult child in the long run. Keep faith, do the right things. We have talked about the different strategies that you can help your child in being more peaceful, being more channeled, be more focused, developing certain skills that I talked about, like communication, like yes, also develop the reading habit. Reading good books, read to the children. They will, it's very important for you to read out to them, because reading is one habit that needs to be developed from younger age. Try make them help them to deal with failures, help them to develop team spirit, and these are things you need to. I would just tell you that when Thomas Alva Edison was a young child, when he was a young boy, he had difficulty in hearing, okay, and also in speech. So what happened? And the class teacher wrote a note one day wrote a note to his mother and put it in his pocket, and he came back home, and the class teacher wrote that I don't want your son in my school, because he's not able to understand anything, and we do not want this kind of children in our school because they are of no use. And the mother next day, she stopped his going to school, but she wrote a note and sent back to the teacher that my son is good, my son will do very well, but we do not need teachers like you who demotivates in this way. So what is the message of this entire thing? The belief and the trust that we have. Never start judging, never start thinking that this is that. Things change. To tell you the truth, I was an extremely introverted child as a child, and my parents used to have a problem thinking that why is she not talking so much, why is she so monosyllabic, and things change. So we have this frontal lobe, which is the socio-emotional, our emotional intelligence. The more we work on it, the more we make a child able to handle stress, handle different kind of emotions, think about oneself positively, which we call the intrapersonal skills. When we develop the interpersonal skills, how they deal with others and all of that, we see that the personality and behavior of the child changes. So as parents, I think you can read up different places where different parenting sites and all, also where you can deal with them, or get in touch with me if you want any kind of ideas or any of the suggestions that you want as regards your children. I think we have almost covered all the questions that have come. I will check a little here if there is any more questions. If not, then I think we can wind up the session. So I would suggest parents that and educators that we need to instill the skills, the basic skills. All these are the 21st century skills, skills that are much required in today's world. Our children need to be multiply, and they should have multiple skills and areas should be developed, so that tomorrow they are more flexible, more adaptive, and they know what to do at the right time. We should also give them the independence to make decisions, which was what Aurobindo had said, that children need to be developed in their mind, body and spirit. and they should be given the freedom to take decisions and, you know, take up take up um, how to make decisions, and the decisions should be in such a manner, we should instill that thing in them that tomorrow when they grow up they know that this is the right thing to do, the difference between the right and the wrong. And who can do it? We as role models can take up the leadership role, guide them in the right way. We are only guiding them, we are only facilitating their growth. They learn the entire thing. We cannot teach, we only facilitate. So if we facilitate the right way, the children in the right direction, and do the right things, I think your child is going to grow up into a bright kid, a very lovable one, and with a lot of positive attitudes. There is one question from Sadhana, how to manage anger in children. See, I told you about tantrums. These tantrums are anger. So you remove them from that place where that anger thing has happened, be it in the house, be it in some mall, being it in whatever area. The peace table you can do, where but never lock up your children in any room or scare them. Peace table is a very, very peaceful way of doing that. Appreciate them when they are behaving well. And also we talk about these behavior charts. We have these very good behavior, excellent behavior. So we have these behavior charts. When they are behaving well, you can encourage them by putting their behavior of the day in the top, excellent behavior thing. So they feel motivated. Oh, today I'm on the top, I have behaved well. So this is how you are going to manage. This is a thing that happens with practice. It's not just one day. We work with children we have worked with children who are like 2 years when they come into the schools, and 6 years when they move out as bright, confident children who are ready to take on the world in the new formal school that they get admitted. So it's a 4-year, 5-year, it's a practice, it's a habit, like I told you. So you can manage these things through peace table, through all these ways of dealing with your child's anger. Sometimes you need to find out the reason why your child is angry. It may also be that that you are not giving ample time to your children. Nowadays it's so common because we are all busy, we are all working, most of us are working. Even if we are not working, we are homemakers, which is again a very difficult job. So what happens is we are not able to give our children ample time. That also kind of frustrates the child. So we need to find out the reason also, and then take up different steps. And I think we are almost done with this session. It was so lovely to have you all. And I would say one thing, keep faith. Your child is the best, and we need not compare with anyone. They are leaders in their own ways, and we as parents, we as educators, if we can guide them in the right direction, I think they are going to do excellent in their lives. And there's one short thing I would it's not a story, it's a talk that I was listening to the other day. And this lady, she is an excellent teacher. She's been awarded for being one of the best teachers. She's one of the best teachers I feel after seeing that talk, where she said that her students were working. She used to get all the students who were not very intelligent in the class, okay. So she used to get children who were very mediocre and below mediocre in her class, and the children also knew that they were mediocre and below mediocre. So they worked very hard. I mean, she was inspiring them to work hard for the next test that they had of maths. And when the results came, they didn't score that well, out of 10, whatever, XYZ, I'll just say marks, out of 50, probably they scored about 20 or 25. And then they told their teacher that, see, teacher, we really let you down because we were not able to score, because probably we are dumbs, and that is why we are sitting in this class and we are not able to score. And what she has to say as a teacher is, you scored 20, you are only 30 down, and the next time we are going to make up for that 30 that we are less. That is what is an educator, that is what is a parent. Always keep inspiring your children, always be that role model, always be that support that your children want in you, and you will see that your children will come out as leaders. Thank you so much. and adieu from Dr. Vasavi Acharya.